everyone, welcome to another edition of Toddster's Magical Mystery Review. I'm your host, Toddster, and today I'm going to take a look at this album here, and some might say the greatest album ever, and that is Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles. Came out 1st of June 1967 on Parlophone Records, and this is one of the best, or some might say the best album. So what was happening in the Beatles world? And the band had ceased to exist as a touring band. They just, once they put out Revolver, they went on tour, and they thought, they decided, that's enough touring, and so there was, and following that, there was 6 months of no new Beatle music, and no single, no album, and everyone thought that they've broken up already. So but then they came back to the spotlight. A new musical change, a new look. No more mop hair. Out was the mop hair, in comes the facial hair. With Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane, and I'm pretty sure once everyone heard that single, they all thought, what's the album gonna be like? Well, they had to wait another few months for this album. So let's get to it. So we'll start off with the title song, and what could I? It's well, I should mention about the idea. It came from Paul. When he he was on a trip to America, and he heard about these long name bands coming out of San Francisco, and so he thought, since they stopped touring, and away from the mop top cute Beatles, and why not make up this little alter ego band, and so the title song is, I say it's his one of his best screamers. It's right up there with Long Tall Sally and Oh Darling. I mean, that first verse, once you hear him sing, is wonderful, and the harmonies on the bridge, with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, it's superb, and the French horns, and the audience sound effects, it sort of gives you an idea of what's to come, sort of like gives you an idea like this is like a live album of this group. This other group, and so it then segues into With a Little Help from My Friends. This was written by Paul with a little help from John, and was given to Ringo, and this is definitely Ringo's best known song, his signature tune, even though he demanded one of the lines to be changed. The original line was, what would you do if I sang on a tune? Would you throw a tomato at me? And he said, I'm not singing that. So they changed it to, stand up and walk out on me. And Paul helped him out to hit that, that high note at the end. And out of that comes his best vocal performance, in my opinion. And so the next song is Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Now John swore that this had nothing to do with LSD, just because it's the initials spelt out LSD doesn't mean it's about LSD. It's about Litzwit. Just kidding. No, it's No, he swore that it was about he had this idea from his son Julian, um, with a drawing that he made, and yet the lyrics has sort of like Alice in Wonderland type vibe, and the key changes sort of give this song a surrealistic feel. I mean, it's pure psychedelia at its finest, and yeah, but yet it does sound better in my own ears. It sounds better in mono. So so we go into Getting Better. Now it's a song from Paul. Yeah, he sort of remembered when they went on tour with Jimmy Nicol, who was filling in for Ringo. He keeps Paul sort of asked him, how you feeling, and he always replied, "Oh, it's getting better all the time." And so I guess he wrote a song out of that, out of that inspiration, and yet John sort of helped out with the bridge. It used to be cool with my woman, and and the sort of little, couldn't get much worse, that bit, and yeah, it's a nice song, and so we go into Fixing a Hole. Now it's another song from Paul, sort of analogic type song, sort of like letting more ideas into your head, and so it's another nice song, and so we go into She's Leaving Home. Now, to me, this is probably the most saddest song. The strings and the harp and oh yeah. But anyway, Paul was reading some article about a young girl who ran away from home. But interesting that the woman actually, Paul actually met this woman like a few years ago on a show called Ready Steady Go, and so coincidence. But anyway, John helped out a bit on the song, especially on the chorus. He helped write the chorus and sing, sort of like from a parent's perspective, and and as I said, the arrangement here, which actually is from a guy named Mike Linder, because George Martin was busy that day when they were recording this, and so it's a lovely song. And then we end the first side with Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite. Now John, he literally wrote this based on an 18th century circus poster that he found at an antique shop. And and it's the complex fairground soundscape, made from, stock music, and speed up organs, so sort of gives you like a sound picture, definitely, and makes you almost see the circus, and oh, what a production, and so we flip the record with George's only contribution, Within You Without You. Now this is another one of his Indian classical type pieces, and yet it took me a while to get into it. I didn't like it at first, but as I grew older, I started to appreciate it more, and it's and it's one that he sort of mixed the Eastern Indian music with the Western strings, and has very philosophical lyrics, and it's another wonderful tune. And then we go into When I'm 64. Now this was one of the first songs that they recorded for this album, Yeah, it's a song from Paul, which he actually wrote when he was 14, I think. Yeah, and yeah, yeah. It sort of reminds me of the World According to Garp movie, where this song is played, and the baby so floats up and down, up and down the sky, so like that. But yeah, it's a nice tune, and then we go into Lovely Rita, Meter Maid. Another song from Paul. Yeah, lots of reverb, comb, harmonica, and it's an okay song. Yet I feel like I sort of feel like the ending has a sort of, like it sounds like there's an orgy going on, so to speak. But yeah, and then we go into Good Morning, Good Morning. Now John, I think that John's contributions on this album, he sort of like take inspirations from everything. He write, and for this song, he sees he watches this from he wrote this inspired by a Kellogg's TV commercial, and and it has lots of complex meter changes, and a pumping brass section, courtesy of the Sounds Incorporated, which is an instrumental group that they used to tour with. Yeah, and it's a bit of a heavy tune, with pounding drums from Ringo, and a powerful guitar solo from Paul, and yet the animal parade or chase or whatever you call it at the end is perfect, and yet you can hear them. You try to hear them at the end. They start to sing it in German. Good Morgen, Good Morgen, and so we go into the reprise of Sergeant Pepper, and yet it was the roadie Neil Aspinall. He had this idea. Why don't we bring Sergeant Pepper back to the end and say, that's the end of the show. Good night. Here's our last number. So, and it's a wonderful segue into the last number, A Day in the Life. Wow. And this is a very true yin and yang collaboration from John and Paul, and they both had two songs left unfinished, and John wrote his based on a couple of newspaper articles, one about the Guinness child who they knew, killed in a car crash, and another about holes in Blackburn, Lancashire, and so yeah, and the way that connected them with an orchestral orgasm, so to speak, as that's what they call, is it's pretty amazing, and yet the cadence that bridges Paul's bit and John's Blackburn part actually was inspired by Jimi Hendrix's Hey Joe. Has the same chords, and so try listening to that next time, and of course that final piano chord. Oh my God, it's one of the best epic moments you hear on record, and what an ending to this incredible album. And so that's the album. So let's talk about the this album cover now. Wow, what an album cover this is. This goes along with the concept of this alter ego band, and when it came to making the album cover, they sort of wanted all their heroes in the band so to speak. And so this was staged by Peter Blake, who was a pop artist at the time, and yet this was actually a built-in life-size collage, and you see all these famous people. You see Bob Dylan and W.C. Fields, Mae West, Lauren Hardy, Marilyn Monroe. It goes on, so to speak, and yet you see some wax statues, and even you see the mopped up Beatles, and it's sort of like saying we're not the Beatles, these are the Beatles. We're Sgt. Pepper's band. And this was also a gatefold sleeve, so when you open it up, you see the four Beatles, or the Sgt. Pepper band, giving love with their eyes, and yet this it also came with it was also the first album to include lyrics, as you can see here. And it also came with cutouts, and let's see what we got here, and so there we go. And it's sort of like came in like the idea of it. So it was sort of like you can be Sgt. Pepper's band too. You get the badges and the mustache and all that stuff, and yeah, it's what a great album cover, and and it has been imitated and mocked throughout the years, and Frank Zappa even did a complete mock-up of this album. We're only in it for the money, I think it's called. And it's lovely. So what to say about this album? Well, is this the best album that a lot of people say? Well, it is my second favorite Beatles album, in my opinion. But to me, it's it's the most important album ever. Beforehand it was all about the singles. The singles sort of drove the music market, and once this came out, it changed into the albums. The albums drove the market, and yet everything changed. Once it came out, not just in music, but in fashion, and in graphic arts, and and so opened the door into lots of concept albums, so to speak, and even helped out other bands create other alter ego bands, like David Bowie had Ziggy Stardust, and what was one, and Creedence Clearwater Revival had Willie and the Poor Boys. All of it drew from this, and you might say that it helped create prog rock. As far as ranking, definitely 5 Beatles out of 5. And so who's the 5th Beatle? I'd say Sonny Liston is the 5th Beatle. And so there you have it, Sgt. Pepper. And so my name is Toddster, and this has been another magical mystery review. And so we'll see you next time. Toodaloo.